This is Bob at Midlife Classics. Over the years, we've made a policy of allowing our clients to purchase some of the parts for their restorations on their own. That both relieves us of doing some of the research and spending the time required to purchase and process orders, and it also allows them to find an opportunity to occasionally save some money. The part of that policy includes the fact that the responsibility for the correctness of any product winds up being on the client's shoulders. Occasionally that causes us some problems. One of the issues, or one of the areas that we seem to have the biggest issue with, is when it comes to reproduction body panels. If we're going to have a problem with fit and finish on any kind of a reproduction part, it's almost always going to show up in reproduction body panels. A lot of times it's just poor quality workmanship and bad stampings or old stampings that haven't been adjusted as the time and wear goes by. But we're going to show you an example today on a 1957 Porsche 356 Cabriolet, 356A Cabriolet that we are working on. And we've done an extensive amount of structural work on this car, and the final major piece that we're doing is the nose. And we're going to show you exactly what we've run into. So here is the 1957 Porsche 356A Cabriolet that we've had up on a rotisserie using a jig that we built for it. And as you can see, we have cut the nose off of it in order to replace it with a new nose. There is the old nose. Here is the new nose that does not fit. Okay, here we are with our trusty Eastwood contour gauge. We're going to do a contour of the passenger side original fender from the edge of the drip rail for the boot lid to the top of the fender. And now we've got that contour set. All right, we're going to roll that around. We're not going to pause so that we can ensure that it is clear that we're not altering anything. And as you can see, we are pretty close to matching the contour right there. We're in good shape. Now let's go ahead and take that shape and fill that in. Well, we'll go and move it right over to the driver's side of the replacement reproduction piece. And you can see that we're reasonably close in the form there. So the driver's side matches up between the original car and the reproduction piece well enough for us to use, at least from the edge of the drip rail to the top of the fender. And we've also demonstrated that the original fenders are symmetrical from left to right. Now let's take that contour, move it over to the passenger side of the reproduction part, and you can see we've got a pretty major difference in the way that things are shaped here. Okay, now you've already moved it a bit. Let's go ahead and reset that contour gauge
to this right here,
to this piece right here right now. Okay, now let's walk that over to the original fender on the vehicle, which we know the fenders on the vehicle are symmetrical, which means they should be about as close as they can be. We understand this is a hand-built car and there is some difference from one side to another. But if you see there, we've got a huge gap that is not going to be something easy to correct with that piece of steel. Now, we're going to do the drip rail contours.
which way start at the side?
Either way works for me. Okay, there's the drip rail contour there. That's on the passenger side. Let's move over to the driver's side. No craftsmen were injured in the making of this video, by the way. Okay. And if you look at it, it's a little bit off between the two, but close enough. If you sink that thing down at the inner lip, you've still got a pretty close contour. Actually, roll it back further up the car. We've got, slight differences, but it's a pretty consistent contour. Why don't you go and take that contour and set it in there the way it needs to be, fully set it. Let me just start off with it straight. And just flip it over. And we'll drop it down in there. Okay, and that's our contour there. All right, let's walk that over to the new piece. Now, we're reasonably close there in the look. The actual gutter is wider and broader and shallower, actually, but it looks like maybe that can be pounded into the car's original drip rail to match. Now, why don't you go and reset that to that piece there. Now, let's take that over to the passenger side and show just how much of a difference we've got there. See how much wider this portion of the drip rail gutter is, or drip rail is. It's much wider. I don't know how that happened other than a possible slippage in the die, but we've got a definite difference there. And if you go ahead and set that contour in there, easiest way is just drop that all flat. Now just set it down in there and push. Hold it flush like this. Let's turn it around this way so we get the edge here. It's much easier to see. Okay. Tap that in there.
It's not. I gotta push this down for you.
Okay. So we got that contour. We're going to show the width of that whole thing. Now let's take it back up to the original car. Now, this I think shows where the problem may have started originally. Take a look at how much of a gap there is right here. That flange on the reproduction part is far too wide, and there's no way we're going to be able to get that thing to sit in there unless we start cutting steel on the new piece. And that would include cutting that new piece right in this area here, spreading it so that we could drop it down far enough to match the contour. Okay, the next thing we're going to show is going to be that nose panel clipped to this car and show just where the fit problems are. Okay, so here we are back with the Porsche 356A Cabriolet, and we've now temporarily clamped the fender or the nose piece to the car, as you can see all the way around here. Now, at first glance, everything looks kind of hunky-dory, but if we rotate the rotisserie around a bit here, we're going to take a look. That's plenty fine. We're going to take a look at how the driver's side fender fits. We're not too bad here. I mean, a little bit of a difference here, but if we drop that down and cut it and butt weld it, we should be fine. The drip rail here fits well. You can see the angles, or the bends are in the proper place. The gutter for the weather stripping, I believe that's where the weather stripping goes, correct? It looks like we'd have to pound it in there and then fold it over, but that's a part of the process, and we can make that happen. But we're going to walk around over here to the passenger side. And if you take a look at this side, first thing you notice is we've got a tremendous gap right here in between the new fender and the old fender. There's not enough steel here to stretch and get it down to there without an awful lot of working, or most likely cutting and splicing in pieces, and we're most likely going to change the contour of everything by doing that. A big part of that problem seems to have arisen from the fact that the drip rail ledge is much wider on the reproduction panel than it is on the car body. This is unlike the other side. My guess is that if we had just that much more sheet steel taken away from this piece and added here, we might have enough to where the contour could be dropped down and would match what we need to have it fit. The bottom line is this nose piece is unacceptable. It's unusable. It is, dare I say, defective. It is at least inappropriate for this purpose. And we need to get this resolved, and the client is most likely going to go to Stoddard or some other manufacturer to get a proper piece that actually fits.